The Baggies Podcast, giving you the latest news, views and opinions on all things Albion. Now available on YouTube, Apple Podcasts and Spotify.
Hello Baggies fans and welcome to another episode of the Baggies Podcast, your weekly Albion podcast, giving you the lowdown on all things Albion. Today, we've got a very exciting, jam-packed episode with a very special guest, so I'll talk about it in just a second. But in part one, we're going to be reacting to the Brighton game, looking ahead to the midweek Everton game, and of course, giving your thoughts, the fan reaction to that game as well. Of course, giving the fans a voice here on the Baggies Podcast. In part two, we've got Liam Ridgewell, former West Bromwich Albion, Birmingham, Villa, Portland Timbers, just to name a few there, player coming on at the end of the episode. I spoke to him earlier in the week about his time at the Albion, his career as a whole, his challenge in America. Plenty to discuss later on in the episode. That's in part two, so make sure you're sticking around for that, because that is a big opportunity to listen to Liam's thoughts about his time at the Albion. Next week, we've also got another fantastic guest on, so make sure you're following us, subscribing to us, following us on Twitter for a guest reveal. Some of you guessed correctly, Liam Ridgewell. I have to say quite a lot of you guessed correctly as soon as I revealed the Villas and Blues badges, because Liam was the first player to transfer between the clubs since 1984, I think. So yes, Liam Ridgewell later on in the episode. Make sure you're staying tuned for that. It's a massive interview, a massive guest, and another one coming next week, so make sure you're following us. If you want to go and follow me on Twitter, it's at the Baggies Pod or at @LouisBen_. Either will do. But that's what's coming up on today's episode after a fantastic 3 points against Brighton. The gods really are with us. But let's get straight into this week's episode of the Baggies Podcast. Of course, time to give you all the match reaction from yesterday's game against Brighton. What a fantastic... Well, I'd say fantastic. It wasn't particularly well played from Albion. It wasn't one of those games where you scream out and say, fantastic work, Albion. We weren't at our best, but it's just weird. It's a weird one because it felt like the gods really were with us. VAR and poor refereeing really did mark this game and tar it, really, if I'm being completely honest. We played okay. We were certainly on sort of par with Brighton. They didn't deserve to lose. I think a draw would have probably been a fair result. Neither team particularly great, but Brighton having all the chances, all the penalties, all the quickly taken free kicks, and still not being able to score. A back-to-back clean sheet for Albion, which is fantastic. Let me run you through the lineup, and I'll tell you what I think of who played well, who didn't play well. Let's have a little look at who we had playing yesterday. So if we start in goal with Sam Johnston, a really good performance, really good performance. Lots of saves made, 3 diving saves, 4 saves inside the box, one time acting as a sweeper. Yeah, I thought he played really well, and a big part of that clean sheet. Didn't save either penalty, but certainly was involved in most of the action. Daniel Furlong at right back, I've got to give a bit of a plaudit to him, because I thought he was actually quite good. There were times where Brighton started to overload down that side, and he did deal with them quite well. I was quite critical of him, perhaps in the Burnley game, for not going forward enough, but I thought he did quite enough here, and I thought he worked really well at that right back spot. In centre back, pair of rocks yesterday, absolute pair of rocks. Dara O'Shea coming in for the suspended Semi Ajayi. I'm not sure whether Ajayi is going to get his place back after getting sent off for handball, but certainly fantastic. 7.4 rating from FOTMob in this particular game. A fantastic performance, clearing the ball away. Let's have a look at some of his stats, if we will. 6 duels won, 3 headers clearances, 3 ball recoveries, 5 interceptions, 5 aerials won. Yeah, absolutely phenomenal from Dara O'Shea. And the man next to him, the man mounting Carl Bartley, you'll be able to see either side of the podcast with the artwork, so I thought I'd stick him in for this week. I've got Jokaslu on one side because obviously really playing well still, but Bartley, fantastic. Scored the goal, but if you forget about the goal, just look at the rest of the stuff he did. Goal-saving tackle from Carl Bartley, fantastic, absolutely brilliant. That is the sort of captain's performance. I think somebody tweeted out that Bartley had said towards the end of the game to Sammy Lee and Sam Allardyce, they've changed their shape here, you need to do something. And that's sort of leadership that we need. I just think he's finally stepping up. I think a lot of people were very sceptical about whether he's going to come in and in the Premier League and step up. He wasn't great in the Championship, if I'm being honest. He's absolutely fantastic when he's not asked to do all those ball-playing duties that he was last season. This season, he's not. Well, under Sam Allardyce, he's not. He's being asked to head, kick, and defend, and he can do that. An absolutely worldy of a goal-saving tackle. Honestly, what a fantastic tackle. Connor Townsend at left back gave one of the penalties away. I don't think he had his best game. I think there was a few times where he could have done more with the ball, but didn't. But a clean sheet and part of that defence that kept the clean sheet nonetheless. In terms of CDM, okay, Jokoslu, fantastic. I mean, he committed the foul leading to the penalty, a handball. No real complaints about either penalty, by the way, from me. I don't think there was from you either. I thought maybe Townsend, did he get a touch on the ball first? But there was no clear and obvious error from the referee to give that away. But there were plenty of clear and obvious errors throughout the game, to be honest. But okay, Jokoslu, fantastic. There was a little run he went on where there's a couple of step overs and played a beautiful ball through to Pereira. I just thought it was phenomenal, the way in which he managed to negotiate the Brighton midfield. I thought he played really, really well. And he's certainly looking a hell of a player. I think if we stay up, we've got him. If we don't, I think somebody else is going to get him. I think it's going to be a top 10 team who's going to come and snag him. He looks like the sort of player who'd play for somebody like Leicester, potentially. Southampton, I think I can see him fitting in there, perhaps. But yeah, certainly a fantastic performance from OK Jokoslu, and he should be very proud of himself for what he's done in the game. In terms of Conor Gallagher, got the assist. They changed the corner takers round. It's just ragged. I actually think he's mad, Conor Gallagher. I actually think he's crazy because he's constantly just running around, constantly putting in tackles, even if it's going to absolutely kill him. I just think he's certainly got that sort of talent to just run all day. I think he's got incredible fitness. He won the most duels in the match with 10, Conor Gallagher, and also had made the most tackles in the match, so he was phenomenal. They've changed the corner takers round, Gallagher putting that corner in for Bartley to score. Ainsley Maitland-Niles, I'd give a little shout for man of the match, actually, from me. I thought he played really well. Lots of passes, lots of creative movements. I thought he looked really good. I can see why. See now why I didn't rate him over the past couple of weeks, but this week he's certainly stepping up and certainly putting in the shift needed. Matt Phillips, left wing. I don't get why he's starting. If I'm being completely honest, I don't want to be harsh on him, but I don't get why he's starting whatsoever. I'm just perplexed that he's still got a place in this team. To be honest, he's a nice lad. Of course, he's been with us for quite a while, but he's just not got the confidence to take anybody on. Pereira didn't have his best game yesterday. I don't think he was at his best at all. I thought he could have done a lot more in the game. His final pass wasn't quite there, but we move on with that. We move on. Diagne up front was okay. A bit missing for part of the game. Needed him to hold the ball up a bit more, but when he did have the opportunity to hold the ball up, he did. Ivanovic came on. Not much to be said about him. Dean Garner, I thought he made a really good run where he went past one player and did quite well there. So yeah, Dean Garner wasn't too bad. I thought he played quite well. I hope to see a bit more of him. Kanu played okay, held the ball up once or twice and made things particularly difficult for the opposition. In terms of refereeing, we've got to talk about that because it was a decent performance from the Albion. We tried really hard. We were battling. We didn't really set the world on fire, but the chances that Brighton had, especially the two penalties, no arguments about that. But the free kick incident, I think they should have had a goal, to be honest. If he's blown his whistle and he's seen that people are, out of play and are not, and not ready for the free kick. I mean, apparently he said to Lewis Dunk said, "Can I take it?" And he said yes, and then he took it. And he blew the whistle and then he took it. I mean, I can't see anything wrong with that. If he's played a quick free kick and our defence aren't focusing and he's said that he could take it, then that's absolutely fine. He doesn't have to stand about and wait for us. But it's the afterwards. It's apparently he blew his whistle again. I think what he's done is he's let him take the free kick and then looked up and gone, "Christ, well, look at where their goalkeeper is." That's not especially fair. Well, I suppose it is fair if we're not getting ready in time, we're not switched on. I just can't believe the indecision about it afterwards. Is it a goal? Is it not a goal? And he must have changed his mind about 2 or 3 times, and I thought that was quite ridiculous. But in terms of that decision, I just thought I think he lost his head, Lee Mason. In the first few minutes of the match, Conor Gallagher knocked him over, Lee Mason. I'm not sure how hard he went down there, but he certainly must have gone down quite hard there in order to lose the plot throughout the game. Really, I just thought he needed to be a bit stronger. Needed to either say yes, it's a goal, or no, it's not a goal. I think VAR really bailed him out with that. Apparently, he blew the whistle twice. Honestly, I don't have a clue. But honestly, there was something going on in the air yesterday, that meant that West Brom were going to win. It must have been some sort of divine intervention. It wasn't luck. The missing 2 penalties, hitting the post with 2 penalties. I just thought, wow. I just thought Lee Mason needs to sort himself out. I hope that he gets things right in the future. I don't want to get on the referee's back. I mean, I'm a West Bromwich Albion fan. My team are on the good end of the officiating, if you like. We didn't have anything turned against us regarding that free kick, but I'm still saying it's a shambles. I didn't think he knew what he was doing. I can't believe he's one of the best refs that you could. He's within the top whatever refs that you could have. Surely there's others that could deserve a bit more of a place. But yeah, Bartley and Yokeshlu played really well for me. Let's see who your man of the match was in this particular game. Let's have a look and hear your thoughts, of course, because that's something that we like to do here. But yes, let's check out who you thought was your man of the match. I think I gave you Maitland-Niles, Yokeshlu, and Bartley. I think that was who you went for. And then another option. Joe says goalposts. So I say, yep, fair enough. Brighton hit the bar on the post. 54% of you voted Carl Bartley. 38% of you voted OK Yokeshlu, and 2% of you voted Ainsley Maitland-Niles, and 6% of you voted other. I'd assume that 6% is anybody saying goalposts. No, Cal says, he says Conor Gallagher was the man of the match for him. So there you go. That is your Baggies Podcast man of the match. You went for Carl Bartley, and closely followed by OK Yokeshlu. A very good game in the end. 3 points. We can build on that, I hope. I hope we can build on that, and I hope that we can keep this momentum going, because we're going to need it. We need to chase down Newcastle and Brighton. I think Brighton there, it might be the XG Kings getting all the chances and all the chances created, but I think there's plenty of chance for us to catch them up, and I think that we could do it if we string some results together. Now time for a look ahead to our next fixture, which is against Everton. Going to be a difficult one. Yeah, we know the quality of Everton. Beat Liverpool last week. We're going to have to be very resilient, going to have to try and keep a clean sheet and see. I think a point is a good result, but anything more than a point will also suffice, to be honest. I think that it's going to be difficult. I think we need a point at least, but Everton are a decent side. It's going to take a lot in order to stop them from beating us. They've got a lot of quality. Obviously, we got beaten 5-2 by them earlier in the season. I hope we're a bit more defensively solid than we were then. And I believe that we probably are, but we'll see if we manage to pull things off. I hope we do, because I believe that we got the quality to take things to the next level. I think we've started to get a recipe for success, and I think it's been working over the past couple of games, especially in the Brighton game. You finally put the ball in the back of the net, and you held out for victory, even though you probably Brighton probably, on the chances they had, deserved to get a point or more. But it's typical Albion to go out and play quite well and not get a 3 points, but then go out and play okay and then get 3 points probably undeservedly. But hopefully the luck is on our side again, and then we go out and play Everton and get a win. I'm going to go for a score prediction. I'm going to say 1-0 Albion. I went for that against Brighton and I got it right, but hopefully we get it right this week. I mean, another 3 points pushes us closer to safety. At the moment, we're 9 points away from Newcastle. It's doable if you beat Newcastle, certainly, in that next game after the Everton game. If you beat Newcastle, I think you're in with a real shot. And I think we need to look and see if we can pick up a victory against Newcastle, especially if we can get a point against Everton and then beat Newcastle. I think we're really in it. I think we start to close that gap. Fulham are 3 away, but we're 9 away. But yeah, it's going to be a big ask. But if we can start to pick up some results, we can start to make things a bit uncomfortable for the teams above. And then who knows, they might just crack under the pressure. I hope they do anyway. However, as I mentioned previously, earlier this week, I had the chance to speak to Liam Ridgewell, former West Bromwich Albion player, Liam Ridgewell, that is. We spoke about his career at Aston Villa, Birmingham, his academy process at West Ham and Villa. We also spoke about his time at the Albion, playing under Roy Hodgson, and also his venture into America with Portland Timbers. It's very nice of him to join us, and fantastic guest, of course. He was a very nice chap, and it was great to have him on. but you can listen to that just about now. So here is my interview with Liam Ridgewell. Be sure, if you enjoy this, make sure you follow, because there's another fantastic guest coming next week as well. So follow, subscribe, do whatever you can to support the podcast. And here is my interview with Liam Ridgewell. On this week's episode of the Baggies Podcast, we welcome former West Brom and England under-21 international Liam Ridgewell. Liam, how are you?
Very well, thank you. Keeping well yourself?
Yes, I'm good, thank you. So you played for West Bromwich Albion, obviously, but you also had a lot of other career ventures. You played for Villa, you played for Blues as well. You also played in the States for Portland Timbers. If we start right at the beginning of your career, a bit of a trip down memory lane, if you like, and talk about your time in the academy. So you started at West Ham in the academy, but then you moved to Aston Villa. What was it like in the youth ranks? What was your academy experience like as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, obviously fantastic. Obviously, Aston Villa got such a good pedigree of youth and academy, which obviously I had at West Ham coming through as sort of a schoolboy or younger player. And then moving to obviously Aston Villa with the big pedigree of bringing players through and using their youth. Amazing time. Had some amazing coaches and mentors helping myself through. Kevin McDonald, Tony McAndrew, Gordon Cowans. So many great people that helped me along the way, and sort of mapped my path out. It was a enjoyable time most of the time, and one that I loved, and ultimately was able to live out my dream by sort of, coming through the ranks and making my debut at Aston Villa at such a sort of a young age of, 18, 19.
And you made your debut in 2003 for Villa after moving from West Ham and obviously playing. I wasn't even born when you made your debut. I looked at the Wikipedia thing and it said it was before I was born. But you obviously moved from West Ham to Villa and you went on loan to Bournemouth. But what was it like making your debut for Villa in the Premier League?
Yeah, it was amazing. Obviously I played in the reserves and played against, great players actually in the reserves. You don't really get that nowadays. It's sort of under 23 or under 21. You don't get that experience of playing, against senior pros week in, week out that I got that experience. And then obviously went on loan to Bournemouth. Different times now, as my daughter just coming through, Peppa Pig. Different times now. Obviously, Bournemouth are flying high. Well, was flying high in the Premier League and now in Championship. But obviously, I think they were League One, League Two when I went on loan, and came back from there with some great experience. But making my debut was amazing. Obviously something I dreamt about, and it was against Blackburn in the Cup, I think it was, as far as I can remember. Like you say, 2003, long time ago, but played against Blackburn, came up against Dwight York, who was a, sort of club legend at Villa, and thought, well, let's smash him in front of the whole end to try and get the fans on my side. And that didn't happen. I missed him and he made me look a fool. So, something I certainly remember.
And there's a clip I remember seeing. I can't remember if it was on your Instagram or somewhere, but there's a clip of you scuffling with Cristiano Ronaldo. How did that end up happening? It's in a Villa Man United game, of course, but how did that end up happening?
Yeah, of course. Obviously, Cristiano Ronaldo, obviously such a big character, obviously, and such a legendary player. Obviously, he was in his early stages at United. And you sort of knew of him, but he was coming down the wing, and I was coming out of position of centre half, and thought, I could stick one on him here, and then had to basically pull out literally the last minute because I knew I was going to miss him, and probably either get red carded or maybe a yellow card back in the day. But I basically pulled out, and as I pulled out, I ended up sort of going halfway down his midriff, and thought, you know what? Sod it, we're going tumbling in here. We're getting close, and obviously he ended up sort of headbutting his nether regions, and people would probably pay a lot of money to do that, and started tumbling down in the corner, and it was an interesting part of my career. But obviously, I was just trying to smash him, trying to put one on him to try and lay a marker, but he was far too quick and far too skillful for me that I missed him and ended up having a little tumble.
Yeah, and you left Villa and you joined Birmingham in 2007, and obviously you had a very successful time at Birmingham, becoming the captain and obviously winning the League Cup in 2011. What was it like moving from one side of Birmingham to the other?
Yeah, I mean, obviously for me, being a London boy, listen, I knew the rivalry, I knew how big it was, but it was just something. I spoke to Steve Bruce, and he wanted someone to come in, one to play all the time, which I wasn't doing at Villa at that time. I'd fallen out of favour with Martin O'Neill, and he wanted me to come in and play for the right reasons and get stuck in and enjoy myself, and that's what I sort of took it as, and it gave me regular football in the Premier League again. And that's what made it really appealing for me. The rivalry didn't really come into it for me. Obviously, it was a decision to play week in, week out, which I think helped and people understood, and a really enjoyable period. But I didn't get too much stick for it. You got the odd bit when you was out and about, but actually I think people were really, really good about it, which I thanked a lot of people and sort of let me go and, enjoy my football and play, because it could have been really difficult, really.
Yeah. Obviously, there's quite a history between the two.
Yeah.
So you say that you didn't get too many pelters or too much stick from each team, did you?
No, not too bad. I think I found a broken for sale sign by my car, which could have got blown down by the wind or smashed over by my car from someone having a drink. But apart from that and a few odd comments when I was out and about, everyone was absolutely fantastic about it. I didn't stick it in anyone's faces. I didn't show off about it. I didn't, it wasn't, I was doing it because I supported either team. It was doing it so I wanted to play week in, week out, and I wasn't getting that guaranteed at Villa, and sort of that's how the move come about, really.
Yeah, and you obviously left Birmingham and you joined the Albion in 2012. What were your thoughts when you first joined West Brom?
Yeah, it was amazing. You know what? It was such a family-oriented club. Listen, I haven't been there for years, so I don't know whether it is now. I'm sure it is, but I'm going to talk past tense. It was a family-orientated club. It was an amazing place to be. They did everything in the right way. They've got, the training ground, the setup was absolutely fantastic. So, we'd obviously been relegated the season before, and when I'd heard that Roy and Dan was interested in bringing me to the club, it's something that I jumped at. It's something that I was really looking forward to. Certainly to play under Roy Hodgson, who obviously is an incredible manager. And, speaking to Dan Ashworth, it was something that I was really interested in. So I was absolutely delighted to come. And it was something that I really, really enjoyed.
And you, some might say this was a bit of a baptism by fire, but your debut came in 5-1 win against Wolves, which is obviously a game which is going to be etched in West Bromwich Albion fans' minds for quite a long time. What was it like being thrown straight into that fixture?
Do you know what? I didn't even really think much of it. It was obviously just my debut, so I was really excited just for my debut. And I'm not going to lie. Obviously, the rivalry between West Brom and Wolves wasn't the biggest one in the city, because I'd been at Villa and been at Birmingham, and that was such a big sort of rivalry, and you saw the game. So when I came over, it was more me excited about the game. It was more afterwards, when we'd won 5-1 at such I could feel it from the fans. Obviously, it was an amazing day, but it was an amazing day because it was my debut and we won 5-1. But it was even more amazing because it was this big rivalry between the two teams, and the fans made it that big rivalry. And after the game, you knew about it even more. And years after, it still spoke about and it still comes up. Yeah. And it was an amazing day, just for winning 5-1 any game. I don't win many games 5-1. Christ, it's Man United and Chelsea standard. But it was a great day, and one for me to get thrown in on, which was I was really excited to get going, and it was an amazing way to start.
And you played with quite a lot of fantastic players at West Bromwich Albion. Of course, a lot of memories from those sorts of days when you were playing, ones that stick in my mind. But when you played at West Brom, obviously this is quite a broad question, so feel free to reel off a list or something. But who would you say the best player you played with at West Brom was?
Oh, good question. You know what? Our team was such a, that's why I talk about family. We was all sort of similar age, sort of driving in the same direction and the same sort of goals. The team was made up of, we was all in it together. It was all such a sort of, a proper team. You know, it's a weird thing to say, but we were a proper team. You know, like to play with them. You know, Fozzie again. So obviously I played with him at Birmingham. You know, Jonas. You know, I obviously played alongside him for a long time. You know, loved the moan and you know, swearing under his breath, and it was amazing for that. But you know, James Morrison, you know, Odin Wingy, you know, he was a little bit different and he was a little bit edgy, and you know, he was moody at times. But to have him in the side, he was such an edge that we had. It was crazy. So it's, you know, Jerome Thomas playing behind him at the start, and Mark, you know, Fulcene, and we had such an array of players, but the players in their positions were brilliant. You know, Reedy, you know, it was like you know, so many. You know, GMAC, like I just you could read off so many. So, yeah, Longy, you know, and we had, you know, Rom one season. So it was it's hard to stick like even read out 2 names or 3 names, because we had such a good core group and such a good team together. Even Bowes Mile, who was the backup goalkeeper to Fozzie, you know, like we were such a team. So it really was an amazing time for me. You know, in them 2.5 years I was there.
Yeah, I think certainly that team with Lukaku in it under Steve Clark, I think that's probably my personal favourite team that I've seen play for West Brom. So you've had a lot of fantastic memories at West Brom. Obviously, you mentioned the 5-1 there being your debut. But what would you say was your favourite game or moment in an Albion shirt?
Oh, good question. Cool. Tough one, actually. There was so many. I think, you know, the season with Rom, you know, Rom took us to a new level. You know, them 17 goals or whatever, you know, that he knocked us up with were you know, took us to sort of a new level. You know, it's that sort of European places that you're pushing for. You know, and that's what sort of changed the dynamic for us. But pick out a couple of moments. I mean, the one that sticks in my mind was probably my goal against, I think it might have been against Sunderland. Was it Sunderland? No, it might not have been Sunderland. The headed goal that I went in for. Yeah, exactly. See, it's tough to even pick out. It is hard. It's do you know what? I don't think I can pick out one game. I can't. But, you know, obviously the 5-5 game sticks out in your head. And I only played the first half. You know, they put Brunty at left back and took me off, and I was in the bar watching the game in the bar because it was the end of the season. So it was, you know, that sticks in my mind just for the first half. But no, I think so many. You know, the Wolves game, obviously the debut was probably the biggest point. But I really enjoyed. You know, playing at home was really enjoyable. You know, the stadium was sort of all enclosed all the way around. Wasn't too big. We were full houses every single week. Really enjoyable. So. You know, I think just playing at home was really, really enjoyable.
And you mentioned there the stadium and the atmosphere. What was playing, you know, under the West Brom fans like? How did you find them during your time?
It was, you know what, it was really enjoyable. So, you know, the home games, you know, was always a noise. There was always sort of, you know, excitement sort of going on. I think, you know, obviously us doing well, you know, obviously added to that. But, you know, it was such an enclosed sort of, which we had stadium, and it was close, and it was amazing. And you know what, for me, going from Villa to Birmingham to West Brom, they accepted that, and well, I think most of them accepted that. It seemed like it. So you know, they accepted it and embraced it, and you know, it's something I really, really enjoyed. You know, certainly playing for Baggies before I left, it was you know, the first 2 years. You know, it really was amazing. I really enjoyed my football, and it was such a good time. Certainly playing in front of the crowd.
And you left the Albion to join Portland Timbers in 2014 to play in the MLS. That's something that I personally have a particular interest in, the MLS. I quite like watching it from here. But what was it like? Yeah. Why did you seek that different challenge in America?
Yeah, I mean, at that point, I had a year extension on my contract, and the club didn't want to take it up. So it was like, okay, fair enough. So the club, you know, decided they didn't want to take it up, which was fine. You know, wanted to go in a different direction, and sort of that was that. So I sort of went into summer that year. You know, I was wanting to sort of move home closer to home. The season before sort of didn't go the way I think everybody saw it. You know, Clarkey left, Pet Mel came in, that didn't work, and then obviously Keith took over, done really well, and sort of so I went into that season not enjoying it as I should have been. So really, the club didn't want to take up my option, sort of, and for me that was sort of fine. I was looking to move closer to home, and then I got a phone call about moving to America with the Portland Timbers, which was mental because I was looking to move closer to home, and I ended up further away than Birmingham that I'd been for 14 years before. So, I was in Vegas on my 30th birthday and got a phone call to fly up to Portland and look around, and it was sort of another challenge. I feel like I wasn't enjoying my football, so I needed to enjoy it again. I needed to sort of get back into, find another challenge, I suppose, and Portland gave me that, which was, again, an amazing experience and something that I'll treasure forever because it was something completely different. I didn't even know about, a new country, and one that I really enjoyed.
Yeah, you speak about enjoyment there of the game. I think a lot of people forget how much professional footballers actually, love playing the game. Yeah. And one of your moments at Portland Timbers came in the shape, enjoying a MLS Cup victory in 2015. That would be your second season there. It's quite a long, hard slog, the MLS season. I don't think people appreciate it for what it is.
No.
Not if you finish the top of your conference, you then have to go into a realm of playoffs where really it's down to anybody, like it would be in the Championship. What was it like winning the MLS trophy and over the course of that season?
Incredible. Obviously, I'd done 4 months before. The team sort of struggled early on that season and missed out in the playoffs. I'd come home, and the reason I went to Portland was to try and, use my experience, try and not put the team on the map, but trying to make them better, and as a club and as an organisation. And that was things that I'd spoke to the manager, the owner about, and actually to achieve it was amazing. And achieve it in my first full season was amazing. It was, like you say, finishing top doesn't really make a difference. Yeah, you get a bye from the first round, but we literally won all our games. I think we won 6 of our 5 games going into the playoffs, end of the season. Got in by a point, and then just kept that momentum rolling. Basically, like you say, like a Championship, you want to get in at the end where you suddenly have got the confidence and the momentum taking you in to get promoted. We had exactly the same thing, and then went all the way through, and then obviously ultimately win it. And and that was the first time Portland had ever won the MLS Cup. So to be part of that was truly amazing, and something that obviously, like I say, I treasure. So I'd sort of found the enjoyment of football again. You grow up wanting, enjoying football, and when that love or enjoyment goes out of it, it's sort of difficult to get it back. It's weird. It's something that you love, and you suddenly don't enjoy it. So that's what it gave me again, and obviously winning it was an incredible thing.
Yeah, and people say a lot of things about the MLS, that it's not perhaps a great standard of football. Some I've seen people call it a retirement home and stuff like that. How would you say the style? I personally don't believe that it is. I think the style of football is actually quite decent over there. How would you compare it to English football? Yes,
it certainly isn't anymore. Now, I think them people have got a perception of the MLS from way back when. From a long time ago. If they actually went and watched it, or even got to play in it, coming up against David Villa and Ibrahimovic, who now is at AC Milan, that's not retirement. You go there retirement, you'll get unstuck and you'll get found out. Yeah, some games are slower, but that's because they're playing in 95 degrees of heat and 90% humidity. Now, I would argue with anyone trying to run around in that is very, very difficult. That's why the game might be a little bit slower. Listen, the standard isn't Premier League standard, but it's middle Championship down to sort of top of League One. They're the games you get. But the big thing, obviously, you get is certain positions in certain games. You need to be on top of your game because you're coming up against world-class players. Even if they're a little bit older, they're still world-class or was world-class. So it's something that it's a league that you need to really watch and go and enjoy. It's fresh and new. That's what it is, and that's why people, I think, are starting to really enjoy watching that side of the MLS.
And you played under several different managers in your time in your playing career. You've mentioned Roy Hodgson. I think I mentioned Steve Clark. Who would you say taught you the most about your career, or gave you the most guidance, or was a real helping hand in your career?
Roy was the biggest one. I'm on my coaching badges at the minute, and in at Dover, learning my trade, and Roy was the biggest one. I got to work for him 6 months, I think what it was, because then he went to England after I joined in January, and the way he worked and the particulars in individual positions, it gives you that. He might give you 3 or 4 passes within your position for that game, or for that training session. So that's why I say he's probably the best I've worked under, and someone that I enjoyed working under him. I understand that some flair players might not enjoy it when I'm working under him all the time, because he's so particular in what he wants, and they want a bit of freedom. But he does so well with his teams and how he sets up the teams and what he wants. It was something that I really enjoyed and to take forward in my own managing career.
And I asked you who the best player you played with at West Brom, but in terms of the entirety of your career, who would you say the best player you played against or was? Or feel free to reel off a list, of course, because it's quite a broad question. But
Ruud van Nistelrooy, it's an easy one.
Right.
That for me, I think obviously, Thierry Henry played out on the left, didn't really see him as a left-sided centre half or left back. Ronaldo wasn't the Ronaldo we know now. Bergkamp's this well, but Ruud van Nistelrooy was someone that I came off the pitch with a physical headache not from getting headbutted or elbowed, from actually having to look over my shoulder and check where he was all the time. He was getting passes from, skulls and, just getting picked out by these people. So Ruud was the hardest person I ever played against. Plus he probably scored about 7 or 8 goals against me over his entire playing against him. So the younger people might not know him. If you look him up on YouTube, if you don't know him, but he was someone that was probably the hardest person to play against in my career.
And I feel I'd be doing a disservice to West Brom fans, and indeed anybody else who's listening, if I didn't ask about your celebration. I've got to ask about the Ridgwell. How did you come up with it, and when did you start using that?
I wish I had it earlier. I wish I'd been able to take that into the Premier League and scoring goals for West Brom and Birmingham and Villa. It would have been amazing. But it was my brother's celebration. It was my brother's dance move, actually.
All right.
He started it in a nightclub. Everyone was doing their dance moves in a circle. And for some reason, he got down and done a roll. He lied down and done a roll. Now, few of my first games, I was playing New York Revolution away. Yep. I was on FaceTime with my brother and his mates while they was on a night out, and they went, "If you score tomorrow, make sure you do the roll."
Yeah.
Lo and behold, I suddenly scored a goal, a run from the halfway line, scored, got down, done this roll, and then it started to be the Ridgie roll. Obviously, the log roll. Obviously, we cut the log in Portland for someone who scores or got a clean sheet. So it sort of coincided, and then that was it. That became my celebration, which I wish I'd done it earlier. I might have been able to trademark it a bit earlier and got a few more views out of it. But yeah, it became a big hit, and I scored a few goals and got to do it a few more times.
Oh, great. Well, so yeah, the Ridgie roll, that's where its origins come from. But at the moment, you're currently coaching on at Dover Athletic. How's that going for you, and what sort of stuff do you do there?
Yeah, it's been amazing. So I started off, so I'm at Aston Villa doing the youth there as well, 14s and 15s. Do that a couple of times a week. And then the Dover, came up. One of my best mates, Sam Woods, actually plays for Dover and asked me to come in to put a few sessions on. And then it sort of spiraled from there, really. And then obviously I jumped onto the coaching staff. Obviously, Andy asked me to sort of come onto the coaching staff, and something I've really enjoyed. So it's been an amazing experience for me to sort of learn from such, a great manager who's been around the leagues to really to learn from him. So right now, obviously, the leagues are in a little bit of a state, as we would say. So we're all on furlough, and the boys on furlough. So hopefully we'll be back soon. But yeah, it's something that I've really enjoyed. It's been a great experience and something that I can sort of take on in my career and take it on into my managing career.
Well, going on to your managing career or future managing career, do you see yourself managing in the near future?
Yeah, I'd like to. I think I'd like to experience a bit more of sort of on the coaching side, assistant side, to sort of learn from a few more people. I'm hoping to get in and watch Roy, work and watch what he does, and like Dean Smith and Lee Bowyer at Charlton and things, people like that, to try and go and watch and learn and sort of get a few notches on my belt as it is to sort of take it into my managing career. But listen, if one came up, I wouldn't be able to turn it down. But obviously, I'd like to sort of run up the mill to learn a little bit more and progress. So it's certainly one for the future, and hopefully not too distant future. Put it that way.
Well, I personally wish you all the best with that. I hope that you get a managerial job coming up, hopefully very soon, along progressing from your coaching.
Appreciate that.
But Liam, it's been a pleasure having you on the podcast today. Thank you very much for doing this. It's been a pleasure having you.
My pleasure. It's been nice to talk about West Brom again. So no, it's been my pleasure.
Hopefully you enjoyed that, and I'd like to once again thank Liam for coming on the podcast. It was an absolute pleasure to have him on. A real honour to watch one of the players who played in my favourite West Brom side of that Lukaku, Steve Clarke era. But yes, it's fantastic to have Liam Ridgewell on, and yeah, a big thank you to him for joining us. It was a real pleasure. But that brings us to the end of this week's episode. If you've enjoyed it, drop a like, drop a follow, drop a subscribe. Come on, there's a huge guest coming this week. And I'm sure that we can sort more fantastic guests out in the future. But in the meantime, thank you very much for Liam for coming on. Make sure you go and follow me on Twitter at the Baggies Pod, at the Baggies Podcast, and at @LouisBent_. There's plenty of places you can follow us. Instagram as well at the Baggies Podcast. Yeah, go and check us out. Plenty of places you can join us for this fantastic West Bromwich Albion adventure. Hopefully making the great escape come true. But if you want to go and follow us on those, you can do so. And make sure you're listening again. Come back again. We're here every Monday, 5 p.m. And here next Monday, 5 p.m, with another special guest. I'll see you next week, Baggies fans. Hopefully, we pick up 3 points against Everton and then Newcastle.